I know a lot of you were wondering whether or not I was going to review this album, but I'm sure there was an even greater number of you that actually wondered if this album was ever going to happen. Considering Breaking Benjamin had an internal implosion a couple of years ago that was all over some remixed work, it seemed as though this was only a fantasy a couple of years back, but here we are in 2015 talking about Dark Before Dawn, which is almost the perfect way to really describe how everything happened. This is something that for a lot of fans is a blessing, a godsend. It truthfully is the dawn that followed the darkness. So we need to talk about these guys. Now, first of all, I have to say I just saw these guys live about a month or so ago, and they put on a heck of a live show. They have a brand new band, essentially, behind Benjamin himself. So, essentially, the real questions that prevail here are whether or not this sound has any sort of update to it, or if it's sticking to the Breaking Benjamin standard, and secondly, how it seems that these new members have been able to really influence the group's writing, if at all. I'll answer the first question very quickly, and that's the fact that it definitely seems that Breaking Benjamin is very confident in the formula that they had established prior to this album here. On the previous ones are the ones that netted them some pretty big hits. Now, Failure, which is the first single off of this album, is doing fairly well by its own right. In fact, reaching #1, I believe, on the alternative rock charts. It's definitely a song and a comeback idea that a lot of folks have been behind and definitely have dug. I've heard it on the radio a number of times ever since its release. The one thing that I will say is that I'm a bit disappointed because seeing these guys live exposed me to the fact that they have a shredder that is freaking intense. He is very, very good, exceptionally talented, and has a lot of skill. And he also has a lot of skill with a very deep, almost screamy, very heavy metal style voice, especially if you want to consider things such as metalcore or deathcore, where you have a voice that has a little bit more gruff behind it. And this is something that is used a little bit on this record, and it's not out of the ordinary to hear something with that sort of level of depth on a Breaking Benjamin disc, but this is a dynamic that for Dark Before Dawn definitely works in its benefit. It does actually offer a little bit of a deviation from everything. Benjamin's voice, however, is still one of the principal highlights here. He does have a very dynamic range, even if the music itself doesn't exactly shift too many places and go too many different courses. His voice still remains to be one of the real principal highlights of a Breaking Benjamin disc. It's something where he has this voice that is perfect for alternative radio or for rock radio, and yet he is able to really embody all of the passion and embody all of the emotion that he wants to channel for a song into each note that he's able to utter. And that's a great, great thing. It's what being a vocalist should really be all about, and he's able to really transmit that with every single note. Not to mention at the live show, he is one humble, humble motherfucker, so I have to give him a lot of credit for truthfully feeling as though it's such a privilege to be at a place. You might say it's just rock star bravado. This actually felt genuine, so hey, if he was lying through his teeth about everything that he said, then color me an idiot, but that doesn't matter to me. Something that I will say about this disc is that whenever it does deviate from the trademark course, it is something that has a little bit of potency to it. Whenever I consider songs such as Hollow and Angel's Fall, it's something that still maintains a little bit of that easy-minded track that Breaking Benjamin has, that very trademark sound, but really just has a bit of an air of different feel to it. Even though these guys seem to really tread some of the same courses musically most of the time, there are moments where it just feels like there's a little bit more punch. But Ashes of Eden is really the song that purveys this idea of difference a little bit more. This is one that certainly almost sounds like it could be a crossover hit. You could hear this on rock and alternative radio, but it could also probably cross over into some of the pop radio stations. Now, you might think, how the hell is this going to sound like, you know, Justin Timberlake or Rihanna or some bullshit like that? And I'm not saying that. I'm saying think about groups such as Fun Dot or groups such as Imagine Dragons that were able to cross over, because it's a song that kind of has resonance value, not to mention it also has some deep lyricism that some people are able to relate to, and it is one that definitely has that crossover ballady feel where it could easily fit over on those stations, right in between the two newest bangers from Idiots That You Never Want to Listen To Ever Again. I've liked the fact that this track really goes against the grain a little bit for what a Breaking Benjamin song has sort of been up to this stage on Dark Before Dawn. It's one where they kind of take a principal left turn and do it with the longest track on the album at nearly 5 minutes in length. So this is certainly one that feels like it has a lot of heart, a lot of emotion behind it, and one that seems like it was written with a specific intent. It was written to be different because the subject matter itself was weighing heavily on Benjamin's mind whenever it was being written. So that definitely gives it this very individualistic and very emotional air. Overall, this is a disc that is kind of a strange brew, at least as far as I'm concerned. Being somewhat of a fan of these guys, but not really a dedicated hardcore one, listening to an entire Breaking Benjamin record for the first time in probably about 8 years, 10 years maybe, was definitely a credited experience. It was very interesting to kind of go back and reflect on these guys. And I think this album does a lot of things right. It gives the fan base what they want in that trademark Breaking Benjamin sound, and it does give them some of the anthems that they are really looking for. I think that this album, aside from Failure and potentially Ashes of Eden, has a couple of tracks that could maybe do some traction on rock radio, but at the same time, I don't know if they have the same lasting power as some of their other more trademark singles do. I think that this is a disc where it truthfully is a comeback album, where they are kind of feeling one another out as far as a band is concerned, and it's an experience where this album may not be the huge #1 successful hit. It may be the next one. I've spoken about this, for those of you who are wondering, about a lot of heavy metal groups as well, where a change is made or there is a long period of inactivity, and then all of a sudden it seems like the album directly after that, almost as though we are Nostradamus predicting the future, that album ends up being the better of the two, because the band members have had the opportunity to gel and learn one another's strengths, and also have the opportunity to really fashion themselves together as a writing team and a writing core. I feel like that's something that could happen here, where Breaking Benjamin's next album will still maintain that core sound, but also sonically explore new realms like never before, similar to what you heard from their very first and second albums. Overall, I'd probably give this album a 77 out of 100. Not bad, but definitely something where I could see improvement in the future. I could definitely see some better things, some brighter things happening. This truthfully is the Dark Before the Dawn. I actually feel like the Dawn, which will be the album after this, will have a lot more to offer, and that makes me pretty excited for it, even though it's probably 2 to 3 years off. What did you guys think about this album? Those Breaking Benjamin fans who are a member of the Cover Killer Nation already, or for those of you who have just come on board and watched this video because you are a Breaking Benjamin fan yourself. Hi there, how you doing? Please subscribe. We talk about a lot of music on this channel, and you're going to really learn a lot. You're going to dig a good bit, and we're going to become great friends. So if you liked what you heard, either that or if you felt this video was at least halfway competent, leave me a like below and leave your comment about what you thought about this album. Please let me know and let the nation know what you think. I am Cover Killer Nation, and I am out of here for the day. Stay tuned though, we have something more coming for you tomorrow. God only fucking knows what it is. I just realized that I'm wearing this really nice shirt and then I'm wearing shorts. I look weird.